We're going to talk about decision today. So, deciding on your direction. Um, Brian and I are co founders of the Entrepreneur Experience, and my company, Red Pill Pathway, and his company, Freedom Sherpa, have our own approaches
Mhm.
to essentially get to the same place, which is the life that you want and on your own terms without compromising anything. And the first week for this first year of this, what we've created here is about deciding. And yesterday I did an overview. So if you're looking at this on a podcast, wherever you're looking at this, you can look back at that. But today we're going to talk about how to think about how you learn.
Mhm.
Brian, what's your perspective on this?
Um, my learning style changes based on how safe I feel, how stressed I feel, and the space I'm afforded to learn a particular thing. So my answer to that depends on the current situation and what it is.
I find exactly the same. And in the about section or the whatever you call it, I put my version of this. I won't go through it here, but I noticed how I succeed when I notice myself more and more and more in terms of how I'm learning in a particular environment.
Yes, I am present as you share that. That's a great point. How precious the intuition, the inspiration is. It's like a precious ember, and how important it is to maintain like a force field around that. So, Larry, you have access to that because, give extra oxygen, extra fuel. There are certain people very close to me that no longer have access to that. So, shortcut word like protecting my heart,
Protecting my heart. That's beautiful.
protecting my inspiration, my gift, the music.
The creative energy. There's this movie that is based on a book I read years ago called The Circle.
Mhm.
And it's a good movie. Tom Hanks is in it, and I forget the woman who plays the lead, but it's really good, and the book's good. I think his name's Keith Eggers or something, and I reversed it in my own mind. And I won't go into the circle, but I'm just thinking about it. But you can look it up if you're listening. And understanding for me life, like I'm a technology system, and I have to keep my kernel protected is key. So I got everything out of my phone, except I can't get some of these spammers out. The only people I let in my phone is like the core inner circle. Nobody else gets in my phone. And then I do concentric circles
Mhm.
out of that now.
Yeah, the idea that no one else is responsible for my inner sanctum. Who, my friend Ryan, big fan of speak less of your plans, except if it directly involves the person. And what I'm noticing in my transition from Florida, my relationship, all of those things, everybody has a fucking opinion,
They do, don't they?
few of which are actually relevant
None of them are they?
unless they've been through something similar.
Correct. But then it's not, then is it an opinion or are they sharing their
They're
experience?
sharing their experience, which is very relevant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the inner sanctum protection system, I think.
Inner sanctum. Yeah, the
Is that what
inner sanctum
I just
force
made
field.
that up. I don't know what
Yeah.
it's called, but I'm thinking of it as the inner sanction protection system. In other words, oh, I just thought of this thing. I was in a group for a year in Chicago, in the city of Chicago on the north side with a couple of really good facilitators. And we did shadow work every week. And
Yeah.
it was based on men's work, but it was co-ed. There were women there too.
Oh, interesting.
It's shadow work with women and men. And I did
Mm.
it for a year with them every week. And I'm like, of course, every week I raise my hand, like, can I go? Can I go?
Can I go?
And I had to like, I'm like, don't hog the floor, because I can't, I love shadow work. And what one of the facilitators said is, I didn't get it at the time. Now I understand it. He said, nobody gets into my core without my permission.
Mm.
Are you writing that down?
Yes.
Go for it. Oh, we're
Right.
going to take a
Because,
pause, folks. Brian is writing this down.
well, it's oddly relevant in my life, right? So the level life I seem to be on is someone that was not someone, two people that used to be inner sanctum. The insight, advice, experience is no longer relevant. And then that would be fine if it wasn't like you have to do it this way. And I hear that, I'm like,
I'm out.
I'm out.
Can't do it
I
now. Well,
love
we can
you.
still have a relationship, right? But not on those terms.
I love you, but that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's very inconvenient.
Can't let it in. And I can be with people who are like that. But some people where I have a deep binding relationship from a family perspective, for example, if I'm going to be with them too much, that's not going to seep in now, but it's going to be something that just is annoying, difficult, and not worth it.
Yes.
Right?
Precisely. That's precisely it. So the rub in this for me is like the concentric circles are an interesting idea. So if a person that's projecting opinions, trying to squelch my dream, that ember,
Trying to squelch my dream is a problem.
it's a big problem for me.
Yes.
It's easy if they're on the fringes, like, okay, not gonna call you, not gonna call you back, like, love you, and
That's okay. We can do that.
but man, you nailed it with the familial ties. You know, the idea of the crabs. You know, the way the crab traps work. And so, you know,
Crab
everybody,
traps, to explain crab traps, I think I know what you mean, but I want to
yeah.
make sure I get it.
So crab pots specifically, right? It's like fencing, and there's a hole, and then there's food inside of it, and so that splashes into the, Barnegat Bay, where I learned about these things in New Jersey. And the five crabs go in, and they have Thanksgiving dinner.
That's right. I
So
can't get
now
out.
the next concentric circle of crabs are like, I want in on that. So they jump in. Food's gone. First group of crabs like, this is a problem. Then the third group comes and like gets inside of the crab trap because all the crabs are there. So if the crabs are there, I want to be there, right?
Mhm.
Follow the herd. The initial five are like, oh fuck, this is a crab trap. I need to leave. They are not allowed to leave. So the crab goes to leave first time, they get physically knocked down. Strike one. They do it again, they will be dismembered rather than granted liberation from that. And if they try a third time, they will be killed by the group, so they can't escape. The group doesn't allow them to leave.
Wow.
I see that in humans too.
A little bit. Not a little, not like, yeah, exactly.
Not
And
dismemberment or actual death, but like I
yeah,
will end your career. You
yes,
know?
I will end your career over this. One of the best examples of this just came to my mind was the mortgage crisis back in 2016,
Oh yeah.
right? So I forget it was a Steve Carell movie.
Oh, you're
And
talking about 2008 and The Big Short,
oh,
right?
oh, I can never remember dates. Yeah, so 2008. Thank you, because I've been working on. I'm going to talk about my software update that I did yesterday later on this stuff, my date problem and the spatial problem and the reasoning, logical processing problem. But the Big Short and all that stuff, that's what I'm thinking of. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the crab trap thing.
hmm And there's a few people that saw it, and that movie is so fascinating. Like, Brad Pitt's character is, big time investor broker that has the license to do these trades. And he's like, kids, if you do this, you're voting that America is going to fail.
Wow.
And they were celebrating that they made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And I'm learning with Wendy in her relationship clarity session that the source of money makes a difference. So this is very relevant to what we're talking about, the inner circle, right? So, I'm in this interesting teeter-totter moment. It's already done, but I'm just not there yet, physically. Um, that some of the financial support I received is dirty money.
Dirty money.
Not dirty money, like shame guilt
Yeah.
money. And then when I compare what I've received to what some of the other family members have received, it's 100 it's 2 zeros different. I have asked for 100 times less than my. I don't want to share too much.
Yeah, personal stuff, right? So that's I'm deciding what do I let out and what do I keep in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where do I receive from? Whose advice and insight and experience do I listen to? So Robert Kiyosaki was what comes to mind, right? So yeah, a rich dad and a poor dad. And I have a rich uncle and I have a poor uncle. My rich uncle's awesome. His name's Uncle Rick. He lives in my definition of what a prosperous life is. Trips
Yeah.
all over the world. You know, his my cousins spend willingly want to spend lots of time with him and Aunt Joanne.
That's
He nailed it.
great.
He
Yeah.
nailed it, and he had to punch through all the advice. The people at General Motors, they were like, "This is a cool story." So, 83, he said, "I want a raise." His boss said, "Get your MBA." Cool, 2-year program. 1984, he has his 2-year MBA done in a year. My cousin's on the way. Told his boss, "I have my MBA. Where's my promotion?" He said, "Hey, Rick, we're in a hiring freeze. Can't do that." He goes,
Mm,
"That's not the deal.
yeah,
That's
that's
not what
not
we
the
agreed.
deal.
That's not what we agreed to." And his boss like, "Settle down.
Uh-uh.
Just ride this out for the next 30 years and you can retire." He's like, "I'm
What?
not 30 years old yet.
It's unbelievable.
I'm not." And my cousin was on the way and he said, "No."
Yeah.
And so he created a financial brokerage with Payne Weber. Got to work with Joe Grano. Joe's got one of the best books on leadership I've ever read. And that book was written because he wasn't there for his boys. Here's all the leadership stuff I wish I could have taught you because I was away building this company.
Wow. God, my head's spinning in circles. I can't even figure out what story to start with around that topic.
Oh,
And I'm thinking of my own experience with money where when I created the business with my dad back in my 20s, that would have been late 80s into the 90s. And that business took off.
yeah.
One of the things that we talked about was money in relation to staff because they never had employees. So it was my grandma, my mom, my grandfather still, his job was to do the mail and get pastries, basically. So everyone had these and then my mom's working in the business now because they're starting to go somewhere. And I come in and a couple of years later, boom, this business just takes off, right? And it turns into a professional distribution company because of what I did, because of my
Mhm.
business development skills. And I didn't even want to be doing it. But I just had the natural talent for it. And I'm like, why do I have to work in this horrible business, in this terrible industry, selling children's clothing of all things? Now I know why, looking back. Um, and the amazing thing about the whole thing was he said, he's good with money, spreadsheets, accounting, controls, and not organizational stuff as much as just like financial organizational stuff, which is where I'm weak. And he's like, I set up a pension fund and a profit sharing plan. And I'm like, why would you do that? He said, because we don't want to pay all this money to the government.
Mm,
I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And he put half of his income into it. And so
wow.
did I from that business. And a couple of
Right.
years later, he showed me the number. And one of them was $2 million. And I'm like, is that good? That's good money. Why? Because I have it still.
Mhm.
Not all of it. I don't have $2 million. It's a longer conversation, but no, that was the businesses. He has a lot of that, but I had a lot too because I got my piece because I earned it.
Right.
That money I earned. I worked my ass off for that money, and I brought my unique creative contribution to that business. So I earned that money. Now it's in IRAs. Well, now I'm 60 years old, so I can take some of it. And when we took a check out, you could look at it and say, "Oh, that's a bad thing," because no, I look at it as I'm willing to do that to keep this thing going for me the way I want, so I don't have to take bad money. In other words, rush around looking for clients. I know how to sell. I could sign people and sell coaching programs and stuff, but I don't want to. So I can take some of that money and use it because it's still there because I didn't day trade it.
I sent over a Chris Williamson year-end review of all the Alex Hormozy and Mark Andreessen,
You
like
sent it
those.
to me?
I put it in the Invincibility channel on
Oh,
our
I'll have to look at that later. Thanks. He's great.
and he talked a lot about the key to being a successful CEO is like chewing glass and like starting to like the way that the blood tastes. Like, all right,
I don't think
I'm not
that's
buying
wrong.
that.
It's old thinking.
But so if I'm expecting this to be easy, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Like that's what I set out to do with it. Like I didn't want to feel fear ever again.
Yeah.
And like that's not it. Like
Right.
I want to see fear for what it is. It's a shadow of a cardboard cutout of a 700-pound looking shadow of a tiger, you know? And I'm not actually afraid of the thing. I'm afraid of the feeling. So that was a
Yeah.
huge breakthrough for me in this. And it's like, stop trying to get this to be easy. Like
Yeah.
stop expecting this to have zero friction. Like that's not how it works. And so if I'm feeling the friction and I feel uncomfortable, okay, I'm growing. It took me a long time to come back to like it's hard
Yeah.
and I'm harder.
Yeah.
Like I forget, like that's part of the learning for me is I overestimate other people and underestimate myself.
I think you said so many things in there. And I think that, yeah, this last week for me, the hard learning experience was so much fun.
Mm,
So much fun because this idea of eating glass is old thinking. It's a
it is.
misunderstanding of how it actually works in our society. And I don't want any part of that thinking. I don't want those people in my core inner circle because they're confused and I'm not taking on their confusion. I don't even want to pay attention to them anymore, but I want to know they're there and what they're saying because there's uses for that for me. But I'm going to give you an example with domain.com.
Mhm.
So one of my beliefs was I can't deal with this technology clusterfuck created by the Silicon Valley people that built a lot of bad products over time that like drowned me. So
Yeah.
I've got a nightmare going on with domain.com and I felt like I can't do this. So it's not true.
Mm,
It's a story I made up that's not true. And my wife and I dug out our entire house. Like it's almost like 5 years of pandemic stuff in drawers. And I'm going through this one little room at a time, like tools, screws, paper. It's like everywhere, but we are very organized. So it's a full decluttering. So I'm going through all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I felt that belief melting. And it was like, no, that learning disability, and it's a learning disability. I was tested for it around logical processing thinking, confusing dates, and all this stuff. It's going away. I am rewiring my brain fast. And
mm.
I proved it because I was on a call with domain.com yesterday, and I'm going to do a show on this called Thank You for Contacting Domain.com.
What are you showing me?
Thank you for this is the chat.
That's the chat?
Domain.com woman. I probably in India. This is the chat. This is a miracle that I could do this. I did this. I couldn't even follow what the hell these people were talking about in the past. I can't authenticate my account because someone entered something incorrectly and they can't handle that. And I looked them up and it's private equity backed and it's owned by this company that did a roll up of web.com, domain.com, registered. I mean, it's such a mess. So I got to just read one thing. Well, now I got to read it. It's just hilarious. But the victory over technology for me was a victory over myself in a learning disability that I released that started when I was a kid. And I don't need it anymore. And my brain is rewiring fast. It's incredible how fast this can happen.
It's powerful, especially with the different modalities. So you've got like 4 different ways to throw the football to help with
Yeah.
limiting beliefs, subconscious programs that are currently running, and each has a different flavor.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the flavor. Like, so my energy work is easy for me because I started it when I was in my 20s. So I have over 30 years experience with Tai Chi dojo stuff, like water method style martial arts and all that. So that's easy. The thinking part is challenging because I get combative. So
You
very.
do? Ah,
So I'm like, you want to fight? Let's go.
yeah, you want to
So
spar,
I'm like, that's a shadow frequency.
right?
So I'm releasing the shadow frequency. And you know who's teaching me that?
Who's that?
I'm married to a badass.
You
19
are
years.
married to a badass.
I'm married to a badass, 19 years, and she won't put up with it. So, okay. So she's calling me out on things. Now, here's where the muck was, the emotional frequency stuff, because for me, it's about connection, right? That's the hardest part for me is connecting with other people. This is the relationship clarity stuff that Wendy does and
Mhm.
other people. And I allowed myself to fully experience my wife's rage and my inability to stay organized in a way that disrupts her own life. And oh,
Wow.
one more thing, and then I'll let you go. She's sending me all these Holderness family videos every day on ADHD, and and they totally got it. Those two
Mm.
totally got it, and she sees it, and she's like, "Look, look, look, look! I'm not the only one like this. Look at her. Look what she's saying to him." I'm hearing it now because of the frequency shift.
That's it. Yeah. I'm noticing in the world the 3D or third frequency, fifth frequency. I don't know how to language that. The fear, the propaganda, the opinion projectors are locked into this like fear prison, I notice. And then there's those of us that are like, it's not even a healing journey, it's like the non-duality, the love.
So slow down a second. So let's language it. So
Yeah.
I came up with the word opinion projector to describe a mind. So the mind's job, left brain and right brain, both projects. Now, how that works, I'm not an expert in brain science, so I can't explain that. But I know that's how it works. And I know how my mind works because I experience it working. And I'm working on it all the time, right? Not working on it, but experiencing it and upgrading it, software update stuff. So when you say opinion project, so I'm like, okay, my mind is projecting its contents out into the world, creating a reality that I live in without my full awareness. And I don't
Mhm.
want that to happen anymore.
Right.
Right. So when you say opinion projector, how do you mean it?
The folks that are sharing just how bad the world is right now,
Ah,
and that's how I mean it. The fear projector is actually
fear
what I mean
projector. Yep.
specifically. And they're not wrong. I mean, they have relative truth in that. It's true for them.
True for them.
And the challenge I'm noticing with the 3D, third fear projector way of being, what I do doesn't make sense to them.
No.
I get why they're going through what they're going through. I understand completely.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about learning styles. Am I going to learn from the 3D? Probably not.
No. Can't. So have you seen Wicked yet? And did we
I
talk
just
about that?
did. Life changing. Like absolutely life changing. I thought that was a movie about me.
Me too. I'm the Wicked Witch of the West. So I'm trying to think, okay, so you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm so excited for today. So I'm gonna take, I got meetings to go to and stuff, but I'm gonna take about 2 hours and I'm gonna take Wicked, The Matrix, the first one, and Forrest Gump. And I'm gonna take my life story and I'm gonna organize it into categories like periods. So
Wow.
I'll have different periods and then I'm gonna place them in a grid on, I'm gonna use
Wow.
Word. Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. And I might do this with, I'm going to talk to Matt about it because we're doing the writing your book one chapter at a time today. And he's going to have, I think, a good perspective on how to connect these things together. But what I'm trying to figure out is when I saw Wicked on Broadway 3 years ago, um, it just, I couldn't, the end of the first act with that whole big scene just blew my mind. And that was the end of the movie. And I'm like, I'm plastered in my seat. I'm like, that's my life.
Right.
I'm the Wicked Witch of the West in that story, dancing in my own way at this party, feeling like everybody's laughing at me, but they're not even noticing me necessarily, or they are, or who cares? It has nothing to do with it, right? It's my own thing, but I can't get through that. I can't poke through it. I can't find a way in it. I'm going off in the western sky in my broom. And I'm like, that's what I just did for 2 years.
Yes.
So I'm trying to plot the timeline against the Matrix story and try to figure that out. I can't figure out what, for me personally, moments are which and how they connect. That's what I want to work out today.
I'm navigating the relationship with my dad in this,
Yeah.
and applying the wicked idea.
Tell me
Uh,
about that.
Maybe a better way to think about this is more like Harry Potter. I was there for Christmas. The
Wait
day
a minute.
after.
Harry, did you grow up in a closet under the stairs?
No, but I grew up to Muggle parents. That's what I mean.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
did too, and they were nice people, and I
great people.
couldn't get
Love my
what I
parents.
needed. I couldn't get an understanding from them, and I didn't find it. I found it myself, not in the society.
That's what I'm noticing.
Yeah.
So for my like heart math stuff, my
Yeah.
happy thought is Christmas Eve at my parents' house. And I got to experience that. I'm like, all right, this was cool. And then like the next day, the judgment around people who tap into the fifth dimension,
Mhm.
how that's the devil. Like, this is not the learning environment for me to
It's
be in.
not the devil, folks.
Not the devil.
No.
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 So, thankfully, um, it's just really neat when I surrender. When I stop trying to figure shit out,
Mhm.
what unfolds effortlessly.
Mhm.
So,
So let's start to finish up here. I want to, since we're recording this and it's got a purpose beyond just us talking. So today's discussion, decide on your direction and how to think about how you learn. What we're talking about is shifting experience requires knowing yourself, not listening to me or Brian and doing it our way. And recognizing your own unique learning style is about realizing, I'm reading my thing now, so I anchor this, how your mind works, what's outside your control, and what areas of impact are possible in your home, life, and business. So we're talking about our perspectives on learning styles, sharing our experiences, and it's about working through the muck in the mind. So that's what Brian's talking about. It's the muck in the mind that's in the way, not where the answers are. The answers are not in the muck in the mind. That
nope.
takes a while to figure out. I give you a few examples of learning styles that I use in terms of how I think about red pill pathway stuff. When you know how you think, you get into fluid motion and action, which is allowing you to structure your life, home, and business to work on your own terms. That's what I worked on this week so I can connect better with my spouse, partner, or wife, depending what generation you are. And realize, like Brian said to intro this, that all learning styles depend on context, material, and historic experience, is what is being learned impacts what you need to learn effectively. Tomorrow, I've invited the Full Liberation Mechanics group. Who knows who will show up? We don't do stuff like organize things in that way. I'm just like, hey, here's the link. And we're going to talk about our perspectives and how to decide on your direction.
Mhm.
Got 2 minutes. You want to close it out?
Yeah, I think it's important for me in the thinking about how I think. The most important thing I found from my most recent reading of Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil is the hypnotic rhythm of my own thoughts.
Wow.
And, and so to extrapolate to how do I learn, and knowing like I learn by breaking stuff. Like, all right, cool. I've got enough information. I'm going to go out and go do this. How do I learn in the best possible way? The environment, the environment is the second most important thing that I have found for meaningful change. The identity shift being the first, but I can't
Mm,
identity shift if I'm locked into a oppressive environment. So I just want to say that out loud at the end.
that's great. And I'm going to take this back to my own family too. So my wife, spouse, partner, depending on what generation you are, is an energy healer trained in a method that intersects Chinese medicine with shamanism,
Mhm.
and she's nailed that. And when I mansplain stuff to her that she already knows, it frustrates her for a good reason, because she already knows. And that's part of learning style too. And me learning that she knows some of those things in a different way that I do. And I don't need to get her to understand the form that I understand, because she doesn't need it.
Mm.
See you later today.